So, for today's presentation, I will be talking about media literacy and why it's important, and I'll be using the newly implemented travel ban as an example. So, quick background on this travel ban. This travel ban comes as an executive order from President Donald Trump. In this executive order, he banned people coming from North Korea, Venezuela, Syria, Chad, Iran, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen from entering the country. Now, lower courts channeled this executive order saying it was discriminating based on religion, but they left the ban for North Korea and Venezuela in place. Now, it's no secret that Donald Trump is not a fan of Muslims. He has consistently called for the bans or for extreme monitoring of Muslim citizens within the country. In 2015 is when he called for a complete shutdown of all Muslims entering into the country. Now, that isn't the only time. More recently, just a few weeks ago, he ended up retweeting a false video calling that it was Muslim migrants beating up Dutch boy on crutches, and this from a Twitter account in England. Now, the Twitter account is far right. They have shared plenty of false videos in the past, and this video was a lie in and of itself. It was false. Now, Netherlands embassy ended up calling Donald Trump out on Twitter, saying that facts do matter and that the perpetrator wasn't a Muslim migrant. He was born in the Netherlands, proving Donald Trump wrong. Now, President Trump isn't the only one that isn't a fan of Muslims. There are plenty of other people who want to ban all Muslims from coming into the country. Their reasons are that all Muslims are terrorists, that if we start banning them, they reduce terror threats. They say that Muslims in general don't end up condemning terrorist activities or terrorist threats, and they also use the excuse that they don't want to allow refugees in because there's not a proper way to vet them. Now, they don't know that the refugee vetting process to enter the United States takes 18 to 24 months on average. And it's a long, extensive process and one of the most rigorous process for refugees coming into any country throughout the entire world. Now, they are ignorant due to the lack of media literacy. Now, another way how they can improve on that is to flip it to test their bias. If they don't see an issue with them wanting to ban all Muslims due to their ignorance, they could try flipping it and seeing if they would be more offended if it was something more closely related to them. Like, instead of saying, let's ban all Muslims, they could try and say, let's ban all Christian terrorists or Christians in general, because within the Christian religion, there are terrorists, and if we start banning them, there'll be reduced terror threats. And they also say that Christians don't condemn terrorists. Now, it's the same thing. However, there is more data for banning Christians, because according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, out of all the terrorist activities that have happened since 9/11, 73% of those terrorist attacks came from Christians, while 27% of those terrorist attacks came from Muslims. Now, the refugees also, in becoming more knowledgeable about this subject, or becoming more media literate, they'd be able to learn that there's only a 1 in 3.64 billion chances of being killed by a refugee. So meaning that you have you're more likely to be struck by lightning, which is 1 in 1.04 million. Now, I'm not saying that we should ban Muslims or Christians, but becoming more literate, you'll be able to see how banning Muslims wouldn't work at all, as well as it's ineffective. So, the way to avoid being media ignorant is to start learning, to become more media literate. And the more you learn, the less biased you will be.